You have replayed it again. Maybe this morning. The thing they did, the thing they said, the moment everything changed, and you are so tired of your own mind. The modern world has a name for this: rumination, and it has tools for it. Cognitive reframing, mindfulness, journaling the loop until it loses its power. These things are not nothing. They have helped real people, but they tend to treat the replaying as a malfunction, a glitch in the software that needs patching. So you follow the steps, you interrupt the thought, you redirect your attention, and for a while, it works. And then 3 weeks later, you are lying awake at 2 in the morning, and you are back in the same room, hearing the same words, feeling the same thing. What the oldest Christian writers saw is that the replay is not a glitch. It is a symptom of something techniques alone cannot reach. The wound is not just in your memory, it is in your will. There is a line in the letter to the Hebrews that most people have heard, but few have sat with long enough. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15. See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled. A root, not a feeling, not a memory, a root. Something underground, with structure and intention drawing from the soil of you. And then Paul, in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 31. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Put away, not suppressed, not managed, put away. The language assumes an act of the will. It assumes that something in you has to actually move. Thomas Aquinas spent his life trying to understand how the human person actually works, not how we wish it worked, how it actually works. He was a theologian and philosopher whose great work, the Summa Theologica, remains one of the most careful and unsentimental accounts of the soul ever written. He wrote about forgiveness not as a feeling to be produced, but as an act located in a specific faculty of the person. Aquinas observed that when we are wronged, two things happen. The memory records the injury, and the will forms a response to it. The memory is not the problem. The memory is doing its job. The problem is what the will has quietly decided to do with what the memory holds. He wrote in the Summa Theologica, Prima Secundae, question 46, that anger arises from a perceived injury and that it seeks, by its nature, a kind of redress. The appetite moves toward repairing what has been disordered. This is not a moral failure. This is how a person is built. But here is where Aquinas becomes genuinely useful. He draws a distinction between the passion and the settled disposition. The passion is the surge, the hurt, the anger, the replay. These are responses, not sins. What becomes a problem is when the will takes that passion and builds a home out of it, when it stops being something that happened to you and becomes something you have chosen, at some deep and quiet level, to keep. The Desert Fathers called this logismoi, intrusive thoughts that, if entertained, become something worse. One of the oldest sayings preserved in the Apophthegmata Patrum puts it plainly. You cannot prevent the birds from flying over your head, but you can prevent them from building a nest in your hair. Aquinas would agree, and he would add this. In the Summa Theologica, Secunda Secundae, question 158, he writes that the person who nurses anger beyond its proper moment is no longer responding to an injury. They are choosing one. They are feeding the will on something the will was never designed to eat. The replay is not a memory problem. It is the will returning to a wound it has not agreed to release. Every time you go back, you are not just remembering. You are, at some level, choosing, not because you are weak, but because the will has not yet made the deeper movement that no technique can make for it. Now here is where this could be heard in the wrong direction, and that matters. Aquinas is not saying that you choose your pain. He is not saying the injury was not real, or that you should have been over it by now. The passion is involuntary. The hurt is legitimate. None of that is in question. What he is pointing to only becomes visible after time has passed. When you notice the wound is staying open, not because life keeps tearing it, but because some part of you keeps returning to it. That is the moment the question shifts. From what did they do to you, to what is your will currently doing with it? Forgiveness, in this framework, is not the feeling of being okay with what happened. It will almost certainly never feel okay. Forgiveness is the will's decision to stop demanding a repayment that is never coming. To put down the debt, not because they deserve it, but because carrying it is destroying the carrier. The saints were honest about how hard this is. It is not a single moment. It is a direction you choose, and then choose again, and then choose again on the morning you wake up back in that room. The choosing is the practice, and the practice is the healing. You will not be able to force the replay to stop, but you can change what the will does when it begins. You can refuse, each time, to build another room in that house, and one day the mind will find it has less reason to go back. If this has spoken to something real, sit with it before you move on. The oldest voices in Christian history were not offering comfort. They were offering something harder and truer. You do not have to keep living there.